The group has discussed that Saṅkhāra in this section is being referred as conditioned phenomena, formation, or conditioned things. All this is permanent, unsatisfactory, and non-self. In the earlier two sections, the dependent origination section is being referred as volitional formation or intention, either body, verbal, or mental. And the second section under the five aggregates is being referred as the constructive karmic formation, either passive or active.
Really? Is there a passive aspect of that in the five aggregates?
No.
So why you put passive or active?
The last two citations, the term Saṅkhāra, in DHP 2779, Saṅkhāra is referred to conditioned things are impermanent and unsatisfactory, whereas dhammā, all things that are non-self. In MN35, Saṅkhāra is impermanent and non-self, and dhammā are all nature or phenomena that are not self. So in these two sections, we see that all this has a three characteristics of impermanent, unsatisfactory, and non-self. We cannot see the difference. We think that all dhammā, whether be it conditioned or non-conditioned, has these three characteristics.
Okay.
First question is that Saṅkhāra in section 3 refers to conditioned phenomena, where all conditioned things are impermanent, dissatisfactory, and they should be discerned with insight and wisdom. Now, the section refers to Saṅkhāra as the five aggregates of form, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness. They are impermanent. Whatever impermanent is non-self and suffering. So the section is more on the practical interpretation and application of Saṅkhāra. Whereas in the earlier section, section 1, 2, the Saṅkhāra actually refers to the volitional formation as the second link in the dependent origination, and also as one of the aggregates of violation relating to form, sound. I think that will be the part A. For part B, I think the term dhammā embraces both the conditioned and the non-conditioned things and states, including nibbana. So everything falls under dhammā, whether conditioned or non-conditioned, both whether they are part of five aggregates or not. Whereas Saṅkhāra denotes the five aggregates. That means the conditioned things that are impermanent and non-self. Now, why does Buddha use dhammā instead of Saṅkhāra, where he refers to anatta? Everything that is non-Saṅkhāra are self. So when he uses the dhammā, he's effectively telling us everything is non-self.
Right, thank you.
Question A. The first session is about the second link in the dependent origination, which is active. And then it mentioned about three kinds of volition formations, that is bodily, verbally, and mentally. And it refers to the karmic activity, which is wholesome, unwholesome, or neutral. And for the second session, fourth of the five aggregates, which is active, there are 6 classes of volitions, which is forms, sounds, odors, taste, tactile objects, and mental phenomena. It may or may not refer to karmic activity. And for this sutta, it is about all conditioned things, which is passive. Then it mentioned about conditioned phenomena should be seen and explored and discerned with insight as impermanent. And formations are bound to vanish, impermanent. Their nature is to arise and vanish, impermanent, unsatisfactory, and non-self. And it does not refer to the present karmic activity.
Really? You say that all conditioned things that is passive. In that sutta, there's something mentioned about the five aggregates. It says form is impermanent and so forth. Saṅkhāra is impermanent. And then finally, at the end of it, it says all Saṅkhāras are impermanent. There's currents of Saṅkhāra twice. One is in the five aggregates and one is outside of the five aggregates. So which one is it that is passive?
Bante, this is my take. The word all conditioned things. The conditions there is a past participle. So something that has been conditioned means this is already in the past.
Oh, linguistic problem there.
I gather if people were to translate this as conditioned, which means it has already been done. So I take it as passive.
Oh, okay.
I think that is an adjective, Bante, isn't it? Not a past tense. Condition.
Yeah. Condition is adjective, but it implies that it is a product of causes and conditions, and it does not go on to condition things. So that's why the late Asma Dhamma used the word conditioners for Saṅkhāra, and I put in an extra adjective, conditioned conditioners. Even the first intention, let's say, of wanting to join this workshop is conditioned by past experiences. That intention will condition other things like your application, your downloading the word book and then studying it and discussing and so forth. Okay.
Question B, in DHP 277, all conditioned things are impermanent, unsatisfactory, and all things are not self. And it refers to all conditioned things. Whereas in MM35, mentioned that formations are impermanent, and it didn't mention about the word unsatisfactory, but it has all things are not self. And it refers to all conditioned things plus nibbana.
So all things are not impermanent or unsatisfactory, but they are not self. Is that what you mean?
All things are impermanent and unsatisfactory.
If so, then the Buddha would have said all things are impermanent and unsatisfactory, but he didn't. He only said that all things are not self. He didn't say whether all things are impermanent or unsatisfactory.
But in the DHP, it has the three characteristics. In 35, there are two characteristics.
Yeah, the two characteristics of impermanence and unsatisfactoriness, they refer to Saṅkhāras, to conditioned phenomena. Whereas all things here refers to Dhamma, but he didn't say that all things are unsatisfactory or impermanent.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, anyway, never mind.
This is our group interpretation. The usage of Saṅkhāra in this differ from that in the earlier two sections. Saṅkhāra used in this section seems to donate passive Saṅkhāra, whereas in the earlier two is active Saṅkhāra. All conditioned things means it's already in the past, so it's passive Saṅkhāra. We give an example of building a temple. The construction of the temple is active Saṅkhāra, whereas the temple that is already constructed is called past Saṅkhāra. And the second part, Saṅkhāra, we understand are all conditioned things, whereas dhammas are inclusive of all things conditioned plus non-conditioned things. Our group interpret as dhamma is also equivalent to Saṅkhāra plus non-conditioned things, such as nibbana.
What else?
Law of nature.
We
also come up that Saṅkhāra is impermanent, unsatisfactory, and non-self, whereas nibbana, according to the Sutta, they say it's non-self, but we still put in permanent and satisfactory, which is not in the Sutta. According to our group, nibbana is everybody can achieve it. It's in us, it's in our Buddha nature. So we consider that as permanent. So it's up to us to develop it. So if we develop it, then we see the satisfactory there.
No, it is in the Sutta. The Buddha they said that nibbana is permanent and nibbana is happiness, sukha.
Oh, okay. So it's already in the Sutta.
Yeah, it's in the Sutta.
In this session, we refer Saṅkhāra to contemplation of all conditional things, external like our body or weather, permanent, dukkha, and non-self. Whereas in the previous two sessions, what we distinguish Saṅkhāra as a conditional volition formation and how the Saṅkhāra is constructed, and verbal formation, body formation, and mental formation. Question number 2, Dhamma refers to all things, no conditional things, and law of nature subject to birth, sickness, ages, aging, death, and thus we say that it is not self and we have no control. Whereas Dhammapada 277.9 is say all things are not self. My understanding here is say that we cannot say Saṅkhāra is not self because we can purify our mind, eliminate all greed, hatred, and ignorance to control our volitional formation, which means that we still able to purify our mind to reach nibbana.
You mean to say conditioned phenomena are self?
Conditional phenomena are not self, but Saṅkhāra is not self in the sense that the volitional, we still can control our mind not to create karma. This is what from my understanding. That's why we say that this is not self. But for nibbana, say that it's still happiness, permanent that we go to nibbana. This is for my understanding.
Okay.
We kind of like concluded that Saṅkhāra is a subset of Dhamma. Dhamma encompasses everything, both conditioned and unconditioned. And unconditioned means nibbana. That's why it is said that all Saṅkhāras are impermanent and unsatisfactory. not self, but it does not include nibbana. But all dhammas are not self that include of nibbana.
In the previous session, Saṅkhāra more focused on volitional activities, okay, and also the karmic activities. But in this session, including internal, external, volition, non-volitional, sentient being, and non-sentient being.
Thank you.
First question, we try to segregate into three. One is the dependent originations, five aggregate, and all conditioned things. So the first, the classification, one is bodily, verbals, and mental. But under the five aggregate, is volition formation is the form, sound, odor, taste, textile objects, and mental phenomena. All of these are active in nature in the sense that it's conditioning process taking place. For example, when shampoo is applied to the hair, so it's a conditioned process place, so which makes the hair soft and clean and shiny. The difference with conditioned things is the conditioned phenomena. That is the effect that's formed from the various causes. And because of this, it's result of earlier causes or intentions derived from the karmic nature from the earlier.
The problem is the English translation, because the Pali is the same. All of them are Saṅkhāra. In one translation, they translate it as volitional formation. In another translation, they translate it as conditioned phenomena. So that's why it gives you this idea of passive and active. Actually, the Pali is the same word, Saṅkhāra.
Different context, is it?
If you go back to the sutta about definition of Saṅkhāra in the five aggregates, it says that Saṅkhāra construct the conditioned form as form. Can you remember that?
Yes.
So that one in Pali is construct is abhisaṅkharoti. And then conditioned is saṅkhata. So the Saṅkhāra is a noun. Saṅkhata is the adjective. Okay, so actually Saṅkhāra, if you just use one single word for it, it will be constructions. So the constructions can be active or passive.
Yep.
Okay, anyway, go on.
The second one, we don't have time. We just conclude that Saṅkhāra is all conditioned things which are impermanent, and Dhamma will be all things or non-self, inclusive of conditioned and unconditioned things. Example will be Dhamma, is a non-self, and also Nibbana.
Okay, for the first question, how does the usage of Saṅkhāra in this section differ from that in the earlier two sections? What we have understood is that the earlier two sections actually explain the origination and process of origination of Saṅkhāra, which is the classes, the types, and the arising of volitions, whether it's verbal, bodily, or mental, which is rooted in ignorance. The second thing that we understand from the earlier two sections is that the way to seize the origination and process of origination of Saṅkhāra is actually via the noble. This brings us to actually the next question, where in the last two citations above, the terms Saṅkhāra and Dhammā are contrasted.
In the first part, you haven't told us the difference actually between the Saṅkhāra in this section and the Saṅkhāra in the previous sections. The previous section is about volitional formations, right?
Yes.
And how about this one? Is this also volitional formations, or what is it?
What we understand is that this is also on volitions, but it's on two aspects of looking at it. The first part is we're looking at the origination, the source, and how to actually seize the source. But this part right now, we actually are investigating into the nature of Saṅkhāra itself, which is actually impermanent and unsatisfactory.
Oh, okay.
Which leads to the next question, because it ties back that in the last two citations above, the terms Saṅkhāra and Dhammā are contrasted. So how do you understand the difference? Now, in the first verse under the DHP 2779, it actually focuses on conditioned things. It mentioned two things here: all conditioned things which are impermanent and unsatisfactory, and all things which are Dhamma are not self. Now, the next verse, which is MN 35, it actually focuses on formations. Formations here are also impermanent, but there's another additional nature, which is actually not self. And similarly, it also propounded that all things which is Dhamma are not self. Now, we all know that our earlier section is that Saṅkhāra is actually a volition formations that construct the conditioned things. If you look at these two paragraphs, the first paragraph actually look into the conditioned things, which actually is actually constructed from the volition of formations. And if you backtrack back, the second paragraph actually looks into the main volition of formations. What we can see from here, if DHB 2779 describes that conditioned things are actually impermanent and unsatisfactory. Whereas when conditioned things, which are actually constructed from volition formations here are actually impermanent and not self. And if you actually tie two paragraphs together, that all things which actually describe Dhamma are not self. So all things over here from where we understand is that it also covers Saṅkhāra as well, because the nature of volition formations is also not self. So all things which is actually, so non-Saṅkhāras over here would be things that is, it is what it is. It is actually not, how can I put it? It is what it is. In a way, it's the truth. For example, if it's a seed, it's a seed. That's how it is. Or if the 4 seasons, the way it is, the 4 seasons, that's how it is. So those are not Saṅkhāra. It doesn't involve intentions, or maybe even all the things that are surrounding us, an object that moves by itself, like the solar system, or even the sun or the moon.
Aren't they also conditioned phenomena? The sun, the moon, the seed, whatever all the examples that you gave?
They are known as conditioned phenomena. I think from our Western understanding is, we know it as a seed or a sun or a moon is because of the perception that we have. But that object itself, if we do not know that it's a seed, it's still an object that is actually non-Saṅkhāra by itself. But we only know it as a seed because through our consciousness, through our perception, that's why we actually know it, this is actually a seed, but it may not actually be a seed also, right? So I think that's how we understand it, but do guide us through.
Okay.
So our understanding on Saṅkhāra, based on the first discussion, Saṅkhāra we understand is on the dependent of origination. And the second part was that actually Saṅkhāra is part of the coming from the 5 aggregate. So basically on this third one that we actually have discussed, talks about all formations are impermanent, all things are non-self. Okay, it's basically how we look at the difference, our simple understanding of Saṅkhāras in the discussion for these 3 sessions today.
So what is meant by all Saṅkhāras?
Not all Saṅkhāras, it means all the formations that arises basically are non-self.
What are the formations?
The feelings, perceptions, right? Forms, basically are all a non-self.
You're talking about Dhamma or you're talking about Saṅkhāra?
I'm talking about Saṅkhāra now. Yeah.
So Saṅkhāra here refers to what? Refers to Rupa, Vedana, Sanya as well?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It means all of the 5 aggregates. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Saṅkhāra, and Vijnana.
Yes, correct. All involved also all the 5 aggregates.
So all the 5 aggregates are Saṅkhāra in this section?
Yes.
Okay.
And then going back to the comparison basically between Saṅkhāras and Dhamma, as in Dhammapada, we reference the suttas and of course to Majjhima Nikaya. All conditioned things are impermanent. Okay, then the other side, of course, the 5 aggregates are also impermanent. All conditioned things are unsatisfactory, and all formations are impermanent. All things are non-self. Okay, both sides also are non-self. Okay, what we understand is that the difference in the Dhammapada, it mentioned about being practical. It stated of the guidance of understanding impermanence with wisdom. Whereas the Majjhima Nikaya 35 is just in a short sutta, it just mentioning it's more to theory. Our understanding is one is talk about theory, the other one is talk about being practical.
So the theory is from Dhammapada, the practical is from Majjhima.
No, the theory is on the Majjhima Nikaya. The practical one is more on the Dhammapada.
What's your rationale for saying that? I can't get it.
As I quote, all conditioned things are impermanent, is referring to the Dhammapada 277-9. When one sees this with wisdom, okay. The other one is all conditioned things are unsatisfactory when one sees this with wisdom. Okay, so basically that is our reference to see how we understand the difference between the both suttas.
So what makes you say that this is theoretical?
Because in the other one, there's no mention of it in the other sutta. Basically, just only explain about material form is impermanent, feelings impermanent. That's all only. Just telling us that all formations are impermanent, all things are non-self. There's no mention about wisdom here being applied to understand the thing. It's just only a quote.
All right.
How does the usage of Saṅkhāra in this section differ from that in the earlier two sections? So in the earlier sections, it's talk about the Saṅkhāra aggregate. That means the 5 aggregates is one of the 5 aggregates. Whereas here is referring to the whole 5 aggregates as a whole, including form, feelings, perception, Saṅkhāra, and consciousness. It's about the 5 aggregates of a person. So there are 3 characteristics of these 5 aggregates, which is anicca, dukkha, anatta. Why is like that? Because it's conditioned. So because it's conditioned, it's bound to be anicca or impermanent. And because of impermanent, and it's keep on repeating and rising, and you cannot stop it. So it's dukkha. And of course, dukkha is non-self. There's no individual identity to it. So this is what we understand this. There's a difference between Saṅkhāra and dhammā. So Saṅkhāra here referring to the 5 aggregates, and dhammā here refers to all things, which include the 5 aggregates and beyond. For example, table, trees, moon, sun, buildings, car.
These things that you just mentioned, don't they come under rupa?
Yeah, it's rupa. And also,
is that dhammā or Saṅkhāra?
dhammā includes the 5 aggregates.
And
other things like car, trees, animals.
Oh, I see. You don't include this under the 5 aggregates as the rupa of the 5 aggregates.
Include everything.
You say dhammā includes the 5 aggregates plus other things like motor car and sun and moon and all that.
Yeah,
so all this sun and moon and all these things, don't they come under rupa?
It's under rupa. External rupa is not our internal rupa.
Ah, all right. Okay.
I differentiate this way, internal and external.
Okay.
So this external rupa or whatever outside our 5 aggregates also non-self, because all is conditioned.
Okay.
By understanding that our 5 aggregate is non-self, automatically we also understand other things also non-self. So I think this referring to that. That's why you say all things are non-self.
So all things means all the 5 aggregates plus the external rupa.
Or the dhammas are outside.
What are the dhammas apart from the external rupa that you just mentioned?
Including nibbana, unconditioned also. Everything.
Dhamma. Okay. Including nibbana.
Yeah, everything. Conditioned things.
Is nibbana conditioned?
Is unconditioned.
So?
Excluding nibbana, sorry.
What is including nibbana and what is excluding nibbana? Now I'm getting confused.
Okay. Nibbana is unconditioned.
So is it under Dhamma or under Saṅkhāra?
It's under Dhamma. Because it's talking about impermanence. So nibbana cannot be impermanent.
Where does it talk about impermanence?
That's why it said all things is non-self. It didn't say all things is impermanent.
Ah, yeah lah. So here it talks about non-self only. It doesn't talk about impermanence.
Probably this is a difference why they separate up this in the sutta.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
The Saṅkhāra in this section, it appears 4 times. So that's how we go through it. So the first time it appears is at page 10, conditioned phenomena, where we see that one can gain wisdom and insight into conditioned phenomena, which is impermanence, non-self, and suffering. And the second time it appears is about formation, also on page 10 and page 11. So the formation, one is in Parinibbana Sutta and one is in Chula Saccaka Sutta. So in Parinibbana Sutta, it's more of like once the formation ceases, you sort of attain Nibbana. I'll go on to explain that all formations are impermanent, non-self. All things are non-self. Third one, which is at page 11, it appears as conditioned things. So it goes on to say that all forms that arise due to conditions and fall away when the conditions cease to sustain them, which we can see again the same characteristic, impermanent, unsatisfactory, and non-self. So comparing this to the earlier 2 sections, it appeared 3 times. volitional formation, where we went through the first section, it says that volitional formation, which is karma, arise from body, verbal, mental, volitional formation. And then the second time it pops up is karma arising from six senses, consciousness, and which is based on my previous experience with those conditioned formations, perceptions, feelings, etc. Yeah, so this is how we view it. Overall, the usage is about the same. And for the second part, the term Saṅkhāra and dhammā. So our understanding is Saṅkhāra is conditioned formation, anicca, anatta, dukkha. Dhammā is inclusive of both conditioned and non-conditioned formation. So condition would refer to Saṅkhāra side of things, and non-conditioned formation is nibbana, where we can see things are permanent and impermanent, satisfactory, unsatisfactory, and all are non-self. So yeah, that's from group 5.
As for part A, the earlier two sections refer to Saṅkhāra solely as one of the 5 aggregates that shape the mind as wholesome, unwholesome, or neutral. They are the mental qualities led by intention that mold and influence thoughts, and consequently verbal and or physical actions. Here, Saṅkhāra is only solely a mental component, one of the elements of the 4 mental components. Now, the later sections refer to Saṅkhāra as covering all conditioned things, in keeping with the 3 characteristics, tilakkhana, of anicca, dukkha, anatta. Everything that arises from causes and conditioning factors, regardless of material or immaterial, physical or mental, live or innate, internal or external. So here Saṅkhāra covers both mind and matter and includes everything except nibbana. Therefore, Saṅkhāra of the 5 aggregates which is mentioned earlier is just one kind of Saṅkhāra of the 3 characteristics of tilakkhana.
That doesn't make sense. How can it be one type of Saṅkhāra of the 3 characteristics? What does that mean?
What I'm trying to say is the earlier Saṅkhāra, which is the volitional formations from the 5 aggregates, is one kind of formation based on 3 characteristics of anicca, dukkha, anatta.
Okay, and then?
Second part. First thing is the anicca. It was actually mentioned anicca. So anicca is impermanence, instability, inconsistency. So the condition of arising, deteriorating, and disintegrating. So the characteristics of impermanence and dukkha only applies to conditioned phenomena, which is Saṅkhāra. And all conditioned things are universally impermanent and unenduring. Anatta, non-self, the condition of things being void of a real abiding self that owns or controls phenomena. So here, dhammā, all things which is referred to as dhammā, are both conditioned things and unconditioned, universally not self. So it covers everything that exists, the past, present, future, real or imaginary, material or mental, good or bad. So unconditioned things exist according to their own nature. They possess no self that acts as an owner or controller of phenomena, e.g. nibbana. So Saṅkhāra is therefore just one aspect of the term dhammā in this second part.
Okay.
So we think that section 1 and section 2 is about the constructing volitional formation bodily, verbally, and mentally. So it is an active formation. It's act on something. Whereas the Saṅkhāra in the section 3 is all things are conditioned. And the conditions being acted on is a passive formation. So this is how we see it. And for the next one in the B, the terms Saṅkhāra and the dhammā are contrasted. So the difference is the Saṅkhāra, which is all conditioned things, is a subset of dhammā, because we think dhammā is all things. So the Saṅkhāra is just a subset of dhammā. So if we say sabbe Saṅkhāra is anatta, then it is incomplete, because Saṅkhāra is a conditioned phenomena which is anicca, dukkha, anatta. But to stop at all conditioned phenomena is anatta. So it's not enough because this can create the idea, or the people can actually infer that unconditioned phenomena, which is nibbana, have a permanent entity, which is atta. So in order to avoid the misunderstanding, the terms dhammā introduced to indicate that all conditioned and unconditioned phenomena are anatta. So this is from our group's discussions and findings.
From what we understand, the usage of Saṅkhāra in this section refers to the passive derivation denoting what is conditioned, constructed, or compounded with the nature of impermanence, suffering, and non-self. It comprises all conditioned phenomena, including all five aggregates, as well as all external objects and situations. In this text, we see the translation of Saṅkhāra as conditioned phenomena, formations, conditioned things, and formations. Whereas Saṅkhāra in the previous section are the karmically active volitions responsible for generating and sustaining the forward movement of samsara from one life to the next. B, the two citations, Saṅkhāra we understand is a subset to dhammā. The former comprises all conditioned phenomena, where the later comprises all conditioned and unconditional phenomena. The conditioned phenomena with the nature of impermanence, suffering, and non-self, while the unconditioned phenomena with the nature of non-self.
Can you give examples of the unconditioned phenomena?
Nibbana.
Okay, what else? That's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, so I'm Quinn. I'm representing discussion for Group 1 earlier. For the first question on the usage of Saṅkhāra and how that differs, we thought that the current usage of Saṅkhāra, it's linked to the three characteristics of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self. And it's not only a cause or a result in the mind, it is actually pretty broad in that sense. In this sense, in the current sutta, we understood it as one way of looking at it is that it's sort of like a result due to the former activities such as like thoughts or actions that were done in the past that has created the current result. So we're looking at it in that kind of understanding, but it's broader than just results because of how the nature of Saṅkhāra in this sense, it can be changing from time to time. It's because of its nature that it's not permanent and it's not self and it's also not satisfactory.
So is this only passive or can it also be active?
I think in this current sense, it's more of the sense of results. So it's more because of the word, it says it's already conditioned phenomena. You're now experiencing the karma that you reaped.
Okay.
Right. And then for the second question about the difference between Saṅkhāra and dhammā, we thought dhammā was actually a much broader word as compared to Saṅkhāra for a couple of reasons. The first understanding is just looking at the sutta in a more literal sense, because Saṅkhāra was translated as conditioned things while dhammā was just things. So that was one of the reasons why we thought it's much broader. But the other thing is also we saw dhammā as the teachings of Buddha. And when you actually see that in that sense, we see it as, dhammā as wisdom, as teachings. And when we have that, we are able to empower ourselves to actually overcome or address the Saṅkhāra that we're facing. So that was one of the ways. That's how we actually looked at the two different terms as well.
So what is this dhammā is the teachings of the Buddha, is it?
That's one aspect. We saw it as teachings of the Buddha, but it's also, just looking at the sutta, we also thought it has a more broad connotation as just things. So we thought that Saṅkhāra could actually fall under dhammā. Like dhammā is actually the broad umbrella and Saṅkhāra could actually fall under it. Because dhammā would also include conditioned and unconditioned phenomena.
So what are these unconditioned phenomena?
So we came up with the same example, Nibbana, unfortunately. So sorry, couldn't give any new examples here.
Okay. All right, thank you.
To answer the first question, how does the usage of Saṅkhāra in this section differ from that in the earlier two sections? The previous sections explain the origination, which is contact and clinging with karma, and functions of Saṅkhāra, while this section explains how Saṅkhāra should be seen, explored, and discerned by insight through the three characteristics, which dukkha, anicca, and anatta. For the second question, in the last two citations above from Dhammapada 2779 and MN 35, the terms Saṅkhāra and Dhamma are contrasted. How do you understand the difference? So here we define Dhamma as the small d is the nature or the order of the world, a reality inclusive also conditioned and unconditioned things. For conditioned things derived from the five aggregates, so which include Saṅkhāra. So Saṅkhāra here in Dhammapada is explained as conditioned phenomena, subject to the three characteristics, dukkha, anicca, anatta. Whereas Dhamma is only subjected to not self. So the example, apart from giving nibbana, for example, weather is something that is impermanent, but it doesn't have dukkha. It's also not self. Or for example, the seed of a durian tree will grow as a durian tree, it doesn't have dukkha, but it's impermanent and it's not self too. Whereas MN 35, the Saṅkhāra, they didn't mention dukkha, is because the context of this sutta is about the debate of Saccaka with Buddha. And Venerable Asaji is trying to avoid putting dukkha into this context.
Saṅkhāra in the first section is five aggregates of the four formation. For the second part, includes the three characteristics, which is anicca, dukkha, anatta.
But what's the difference between the two Saṅkhāras?
One is the formation, rising of five aggregates and all the phenomena. But then this Saṅkhāra includes the dukkha, the effect of the five aggregates.
The Saṅkhāras here exhibit these three characteristics, correct? You're supposed to view them in terms of these three characteristics. But what is it? What are these Saṅkhāras? Are they the same as in the first?
They just mention about how it's formed, how it is, all the five aggregates is formed, and forming of the five elements and body, the senses, and the leading of the feeling, sensation of everything. But then in this, it includes the dukkha, impermanence of it.
So in the previous two sections, are the Saṅkhāras also anicca, dukkha, anatta?
Supposed to be, but that is not mentioned.
Not mentioned. Okay.
And then for the second question, Saṅkhāra and Dhamma, Saṅkhāra itself is only constructed things, whereas Dhamma, including the constructed and unconstructed things, like the whole universe is like vitamin is a nutriment for everything, part of the nutriment, but then the Dhamma is like the whole universe, including the unconditioned nibbana, reaching the higher wisdom. Dhamma is the higher wisdom, which includes everything. It's like the whole forest, and Saṅkhāra is a handful of weight.